Hello, my name is Simon. Welcome to Why Is That, a free speech platform where we explore big ideas and the controversies of our time. Hello, beloveds, and welcome back to another episode of Why Is That? Free speech and freedom of association is under attack, and what does a teenage female porn star think the communist workers' revolution will look like? In this show, we will be looking at the battle for Berkeley. In a previous show, we covered the Berkeley riots, and this one will be looking at open street battles, which happened between Trump supporters and Antifa. And the police just stood back. Why is that? Because it seems they were ordered to stand down and just let the street battle happen. But don't worry, the police still got paid. And to be honest, I think a lot of them were just really pissed off about being told to stand down, but off the top of my head, I would say that was an illegal order, which you don't have to follow those. If you swear to serve and protect, you should do that. As it looks like the mayor of Berkeley is using a radical left-wing group as his jackboot thugs to shut down political opponents. You might be asking, why is a New Zealand-based social commentary show concerned about this stuff? You look at things that are happening in North America and in Europe, where law and order just seems to be breaking down. Whether it being mass sexual assaults in Europe, with the authorities doing nothing or covering them up, see Sweden becoming the rape capital of Europe, and also things like the Rotherham rape scandals, which are covered up for over a decade because authorities didn't want to seem racist, resulting in the brutal sexual exploitation of over 1,400 young women, to the Soviet-style thought crime courts developing in Canada, to the US, where you've got Black Lives Matter that burns down entire neighbourhoods, of course not the neighbourhoods the protesters live in, and radical left-wing groups attacking right-wing opponents in the streets, while the police are nowhere to be seen. It just seems the left is allowing law and order to break down to advance their agendas. And people, if Europe and North America fall as bastions of Western civilization, that just leaves Australia. And that's a very, very sobering thought. But on a more serious note, these things always get imported to New Zealand. Oh, and Ireland. As these people always want to push their ideology internationally, and there are always people who are willing to open the gates domestically. Now, if you're wondering what the Battle for Berkeley is, it happened Saturday, the 15th of April, US time, which is more Sunday 16th here, but it happened in Berkeley, where they had a huge riot when Milo Yiannopoulos was meant to speak. And the event was organised as a pro-Trump, pro-free speech, pro-freedom of association. I mean, no radical ideas at all. You had groups like Gays for Trump and Hispanics for Trump speaking at it. You did have some white nationalists show up, but you know what? Everybody on the right is like, screw those guys. One of the less favourite game is, do you dissociate yourself from people I identify as bad actors? And you know what? Yes, the vast majority of right-wingers completely disassociate themselves from white nationalists. Where a lot of leftists, do you hear them disassociate themselves from violent communists, such as Antifa? No, you don't. Because they condone the violence. During the Berkeley riots, most of the left supported these violent thugs coming out to attack people just wanting to listen to a talk. So there was this pro-Trump rally, and of course Antifa show up. The pro-Trump signs for come out, was come and support free speech, and the Antifa ones were come and fuck up some Nazis and racists. I mean, which one seems to be advocating violence? Let's think about this. And not only were Antifa throwing small firecracker bombs and mace bombs, but they were also throwing huge bricks which could have killed someone if it had hit them. And the police were just hanging back. I mean, this went on all day, and the police just hung back. From all the video footage, Antifa started it and kept going, and the Trump supporters finished it. And why a lot of people on the right, big fans of free speech? Because we want to talk it out rather than fight it out. Okay, I've gone on a bit. I'll play clips of Lauran Southern, who's an independent journalist who was there, and also commentary from Sargons of a card. And I'll throw in some more commentary, of course, but and next week's going to be on the French election, so yes, no clips will be used in that show.
Molyneux from Freedom Aid Radio, here with a good friend, Lauran Southern, an independent journalist and the author of Barbarians, How the Baby Boomers, Immigration and Islam Screwed My Generation. Please follow her on Twitter, twitter.com/Lauran_Southern, also known as the Chief Valkyrie, a.k.a. Queen Boadicea of the Battle for Berkeley. Lauran, nothing I can say is going to match what you have to say about what went down today. Just give us the A to Z. What happened?
All right. So we showed up ready for a rally for free speech. Honestly, I wasn't even sure if I was going to be able to speak, but I was, and the police had assured us that there would be an abundant presence there. And for a while there, I thought, wow, we're going to be totally fine. The police are here. We're good. But as soon as Antifa started setting off M80s, those little explosives, poof, where did the cops go? Oh, they're all gone now. And it was open season on Trump supporters. But this time round, unlike the other times in Berkeley, Trump supporters came prepared. Despite the fact that police had disarmed them for the most part, they came prepared with their fists. So while Antifa were throwing rocks at us, were throwing M80s and fireworks at us, Trump supporters were running in there and fighting them fist for fist. And everything seemed like it was pretty even going steady. It was just kind of no one was pushing either line until there was one turning point in the battle for Berkeley, like any epic battle has, where Antifa set off a smoke bomb, and it was supposed to come and surprise attack us. They were going to flank us from the side, but they miscalculated because the wind was going in their direction. And everyone realized at the same moment, I think I heard someone beside me say, "Those fucking morons." And everyone sprinted forward and just... It was a massacre with fists, is quite frankly what it became.
Now, did you actually get a chance to speak today?
I did get a chance to speak, but there were only a few people that were listening, and everyone else was kind of like on the battle lines, just yelling at each other because it was pretty heated over there. So we did get a chance to speak, which was cool, and I feel kind of bad for the event organizers because obviously Antifa brought their music to blast and were throwing stuff, so we're kind of distracted from the speaking. But we did get to speak, although briefly.
Now, so after you finish your speak, I guess you have a bit of a tendency, as I've seen on your videos, Lauran, to head towards the fire, as the saying goes, rather than away from it. So what was your personal involvement? What did you see? And, based on what's going on with your face, what happened to you?
Well, I had amazing security. First of all, I had some guys that had volunteered from Proud Boys and a couple other groups that were staying there with me, pushing anyone away who tried to come after me, because there were people at me. They're saying, one guy was Richard Spencer, and not just punch him. She's an awful person, shrieking at me. So they knew who I was. So I had these guys there to protect me, pull me away from the But it was hard to avoid the bear mace in the air. And it's important to know media are going to report that the air and the tear gas and all that wasn't from the cops. The cops had pieced it at this point. The bear mace was from the protesters. It was from Antifa. No one on the Trump side had bear mace because the cops banned us from having bear mace and anything to defend ourselves. So it's basically the typical disarm the good guys kind of act. We were all disarmed, couldn't have mace or anything. All the Antifa, I think Kyle Chapman got bear mace straight to the face. It was horrible. There was women screaming with it all over their faces and everything. So I didn't even think this would come in handy, but it did. And my helmet and everything. They were chucking... along with the bear mace, they were chucking giant rocks, which was pretty horrifying. So we had to be yelling, rock incoming, brick incoming, explosive incoming, so people could clear the way. One guy got hit in the head and blood, it was horrifying. There was blood literally spurting everywhere, all over the cement. And this guy was just like, he's like, I don't know what hit me. And it's just all over his face. It was actually like really, really scary stuff going on there. I had to get dragged out of a lot of situations. I don't know what I would have done without my security there, honestly. So those guys were absolutely amazing. But it was a battle zone. It was a battle zone. We were telling each other, get to that position. Everyone back up. Everyone move forward. Antifa were doing the same thing, flank them from the side. It was a literal battle on the streets of in person.
Sorry, I'm just waiting for the internet to catch up here for just a second. It was a battle for the streets of Berkeley. And I've seen some of the videos of the rocks. They're coming in from very high, coming in from 20 or 30 feet, big chunks of masonry and bricks. I don't know what the hell they were. But man, I mean, that lands on your head. I mean, you could very easily be killed. And so there was, to me at least, the deathly ordinance floating around in the form of this stuff.
Absolutely. And it's what I was thinking about that. I'm like, I hate communists as much as the next person, but I wouldn't want to kill one of them. They may hate right-wingers, but the idea that they would be okay with the idea of chucking a rock that could murder someone is just unreal. And I was walking through the streets of Berkeley just before this event, and there is a sickness here. All of the buildings, everything around the campus, it's all spray painted Antifa zone. This place has a sickness of extreme communism, extreme radicalization, unlike anywhere else. And an opposition to it was necessary. When the police won't stand up for people's free speech and right to assemble, then you have to oppose it, and that means with your fists. So that's why when I saw, I'd like it to be with your words, and I don't want this to be the state of political discourse right now, but I feel that all of the Trump supporters that were fighting back were completely justified in what they did today.
Did you, it's hard to know for sure, and maybe it will come out over time if people try and get the information from the cops. But Lauran, did you get the sense that the police they had a stand-down order? I'm sure a lot of the police would like to deal with this because they know where it leads if they don't step in, and whoever's initiating the force, that they take those people away. They know there's going to be street fights, there's going to be Weimar-style street fights. Do you get the sense that the police wanted to help, or that they had stand-down orders, or what's your guess about that?
Well, they were arresting probably just as many Trump supporters as they were Antifa. Based Elbow Man from Huntington Beach was arrested. I'm not sure exactly what he was doing then. Stickman was arrested as well. But you saw at one point that they all started waving, "Get out, get out." There was a little siren that went off, and I think they were probably given a stand-down order. I can't imagine when they're all prepared in riot gear, that they, especially moral police officers, would feel justified just sitting in their police car, which they were. They were all like in little buses, just sitting there the entire time in their squad cars. I can't imagine that there wouldn't be cops there that wanted to be out there protecting people, because there were women and innocent people getting hit and maced and everything that were just walking down the street. And there's no doubt in my mind that there were cops that did want to be out there, but they were probably given a stand-down order.
Now, you, of course, saw, as did all of us, the gathering storm around this free speech rally that was going on. You saw the posters, the hysteria, the Nazis, the violence, the threats. What was it like for you, Lauran, to prepare yourself for this? What was your mindset and your thoughts and feelings, walking up to that microphone, knowing what could go down?
It's crazy because a few days ago I was going out and I was laughing because I was at Home Depot picking up a freaking respirator and picking up a helmet and even thinking of picking up shin pads. I was laughing because I'm like, Lauran, you're exaggerating. What are you doing picking up this stuff? You're being dramatic. And I was like, I might as well have it. I get there, and I totally needed it, 100%. Like I felt so bad for my security guys that didn't have masks, because when the pepper spray came in at all of us, I had my mask and it was still coming through, and you can see my makeup is all down because it was painful as all hell when it got into my mask. And I needed that stuff. The fact that I needed to go and buy a respirator, a helmet, and a face mask to go to a political event in America, it just shocks me. I'm still trying to get over the fact that I just had to go and buy that stuff to go to a political event, let alone what actually happened at this event that is now making nationwide headlines.
And a political event, I was just talking with Mike Cernovich as well, Lauran, a political event where the arguments being put forward, the ideas being put forward are far from radical or extreme. What are we talking about? Free speech, freedom of association, freedom of assembly, and so on. This is not radical stuff. Nobody's talking about anything immoral or illegal or inciting riots or anything like that. People are talking about, maybe it would be kind of cool if America decided to enforce its existing laws, around immigration and other things. The Overton window, in terms of how this debate has been moved, you all are being portrayed as extremists when the majority of people in America voted for just these platforms. This is not extremism that's being opposed, but centrism.
Yeah, I mean, you had gays for Trump speaking there and Hispanics for Trump speaking there, like the groups themselves, and all sorts of people attending this event. You can't even try to pretend this was some sort of alt-right event, because most of the people there would be kicked out of an alt-right event that were attending, or a far alt-right event, whatever you want to call it. I can't. The only way that I can try to explain what has happened here is you've got all of these unstable, mentally ill teenagers that have been radicalized by their media and by their schooling and by their government, and they came out there, and it was sick. The fact that the people there were willing to murder someone and cheer it on along the way, and they were. I can't even explain. It was a party as well. It was a party. They had music blasting the entire time. They were dancing and saying, F you, we're going to punch you, it was so sick, Stefan. I can't even describe it. I mean, you just have to watch the videos, but being there.
And you can find a lot of the videos for the Battle of Berkeley online. Just don't take mainstream media coverage on it. We're about to look into why, but look at these videos for yourself. You can listen to the rest of that interview at Stefan Molyneux' channel, and it's called Free Speech Battle for Berkeley, California, interview with Lauran Southern. Now, before I play the clip from Sargon of Akkad, I've just remembered H.A. Goodman, who's a progressive left-wing journalist, has also talked about this. He's done several good videos. I'll just play a clip now.
My name is H.A. Goodman, and I'm an author, columnist, and journalist. And to read all my writing, go to counterpropaganda.com, support the site through the Amazon links and donate button. Happy Easter to everybody watching around the world and in the U.S. Happy Easter. I want to explain something very simple regarding the Berkeley protests, the violence there, and the images, especially of a woman getting punched in the face by one insane Trump supporter. First of all, not all Trump supporters punch women in the face. Second of all, other women at Standing Rock were brutalized. People, men and women, experienced the most horrendous abuse when they were water protectors at Standing Rock in North Dakota. The same people who are sharing. Look at their profiles. Look at their history on Twitter or social media. Find out if the same people who are sharing photos of a woman getting punched in the face are also the same people who spoke out against the brutality women faced at Standing Rock. Most of the time, you won't see a history of defending the water protectors or speaking out against all the atrocities that the Dakota Sioux experienced. The reason is because President Obama was in office and Democrats were in power. The point of this video is very simple. Hillary Clinton, Democratic Party, people like Howard Dean and Neera Tanden are utilizing violence for the goal of drumming up enthusiasm, energy. They sucked the life out of the Democratic Party by cheating Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders would have been president. Bernie Sanders would have defeated Trump.
You can listen to the rest of that on H.A. Goodman. He's got several videos on it. I wasn't a big fan of the whole Standing Rock cause, but there was a lot of violence towards the protesters there that didn't get coverage because Obama was sanctioning basically the brutality against the protesters. But H.A. brings up a good point about first principles. You know, if you really cared about this, you'd care about it no matter where it happens and who it happens to. I mean, the Berkeley riots, a lot of women got assaulted, and left-wing journalists didn't care then. But to round the show off, I'll play a clip from Sargon of Akkad.
Hello everyone, welcome to This Week in Stupid for the 16th of April 2017. Hey Antifa, how's it going? Remember back in February when you were busy shutting down free speech with a large mob of violent, black-clad communists? Do you remember that? I remember that. Remember when you were marching through the streets with banners saying, "This is war and become ungovernable"? Remember when you thugs decided to knock a man out and then keep beating him while he's on the floor for presumably being a Nazi? Remember when your thugs decided to smack a woman over the head in the middle of a demonstration? Remember when one of your cowardly little comrades decided to sucker punch his political opponent and then every verified left-wing journalist on Twitter applauded it like it was a magnificent act of bravery? And then there had to be an international public debate to explain to you that that's fucking wrong. And do you remember that liberals get the bullets too? Well, I'll tell you what. Grab your hammers and sickles, Antifa, because the harvest is in and you're about to reap what you sow. You brought violence into the political debate, and now you have it. You're going to learn that you should be careful what you wish for.
I'll just jump in here because he's got on the screen the post from the Berkeley Antifa. The pro-Trump rally in Berkeley, California on April 15th is a Nazi rally. Make no mistake about it, the key people participating are straight up unabashed part of the neo-fascism that we have seen over the past year and half trying to exalt Donald Trump. And yes, Antifa will be there. They will be holding a block party and cookout in the same park in anticipation of what the neo-fash will do. Let's fill MLK Park with our resilient bodies before these bigots can even show their faces. Prevent their rally and send a message that we aren't down with hate, all while enjoying dope beats and delicious barbecue. He goes on.
Good thing the writing's on the wall. Defend the Bay from racists. April 15th, 10 a.m., Peaceful Berkeley. Come fuck up some Nazis. Looks like Shia LaBeouf failed again because you've already been divided. And if you look in the distance, you can see the fascist police all ready to protect those neo-Nazis from your glorious revolutionary spirit. Oh, and here comes the People's Liberation Army. I'm so excited, it's like 1917 all over again. My goodness, how are those for optics, though? A person of color stands bravely holding an American flag, while black-clad, white, communist revolutionaries march up to him in formation and start trampling everything down. That is just amazing. It's so progressive. Entirely dressed in black with their faces covered, with a big black flag with white writing on, no distinguishing characteristics apart from their waistlines, and they look like they may as well be fighting for ISIS.
And the good thing about Sargons' thing is that he includes several clips which I'd like to include from other people.
Other Nazis there as well, mostly in the form of independent journalists, such as Luke from We Are Change and Tim Pool. Here's what Tim Pool had to say about the people that he saw there.
There were a lot of people in the rally who identified as liberal, and a couple of them looked like your stereotypical hippie. Gray hair on a bike, green shirt, a few people with no DAPL activist sweaters and signs. So I was surprised to find that, because I had been calling it like a Trump event, like an alt-right thing, but there actually were some liberals there.
And in another section.
And apparently there were also a bunch of Mexican white supremacists who were voting for the Cheeto Furo.
For Trump! California for Trump! LA. California for Trump! LA for Trump!
So it looks like the opposition to the glorious revolution was remarkably diverse, from a range of different ethnic backgrounds and political ideologies. How interesting.
And as mentioned in the Lauran Southern interview, the police standing down and sitting in their cars or buses, somebody went up to them and were asking them questions, and here's the audio.
So you might be wondering, well, where exactly were the police in all of this? Why weren't they intervening in what really does look like a small-scale battle? Why weren't the police breaking them up, preventing anyone from beating each other? What were they doing?
Hey, how come you guys are hanging back?
That would be a good question for the chief of police.
I mean, I haven't seen the cops around people and just, beating the shit out of each other.
A public statement, right?
I know, I'm just asking you guys. I mean, you're here.
I would defer you to our public information officer.
So they told you to hang back?
As I said, I refer you to our public information officer. What's your next question?
I mean, I'm just wondering why I've been watching all day. People get beat up pretty bad. I haven't seen you guys around much.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And
so the second police officer, very much, talked to the official thing. But the first one that was most interesting when he said, that's a good question for the chief of police. They got a stand-down order. It's pretty bloody clear. All day a small-scale battle is going on. I mean, not just like for an hour or whatever. I mean, hours and hours and hours on end, and the police are there, and they do nothing. They got a stand-down order. Now, you might be wondering why in the beginning I mentioned something about a porn star. Here's why.
There were casualties on both sides, of course, but it seems that, at least on this day, Antifa got the worst of it. Of course, in an event like this, there was always going to be one incident that would go viral and be the thing that everyone was talking about. And for the Battle of Berkeley, it was this. There's a lot of controversy over our young Antifa heroine here, who jumps in, she's bouncing, she brings her hands up, and then, boom, a manlet comes out of nowhere and smacks her square between the eyes, right on the forehead. So our young communist is called Emily Rose Marshall, and she was planning to head to Berkeley to disrupt the neo-Nazi white supremacist jerk circle today. Nervous as fuck, but determined to bring back 100 Nazi scalps. The bad news is, I don't think there were 100 Nazis at this event. Emily appears to work as a porn star under the pseudonym Venus Rosales, and it's only through this information that we know that she is 5'1" and weighs 98 pounds, which gives us a rough indication of the size of the manlet that laid her out. His name is Nathan D'Amigo, and he is apparently a leader with Identity Europa, a white identitarian nationalist movement that is, frankly, probably one of the fascists that the communists have been so worried about. So I'm so glad to see that America has finally become Weimar Germany, and you have fascists and communists fighting in the street over who is the biggest piece of shit of them all. But let's be honest with ourselves, the fascists didn't start it, did they? They weren't the ones who started by terrorizing people who simply wanted to go against the politically correct narrative. They weren't the ones who were picketing and protesting and shutting people down. So maybe, just maybe, attacking white people on the basis that they're white has negative consequences. Maybe you should think about that when you're thinking, was it really very sensible for a 5'1", 98-pound woman to try and get into a fight?
I wouldn't say it was very sensible at all. And especially, I used to work as a bouncer, and very occasionally huge brawls would break out, and fists would just be flying. And if you were anywhere near it, you were in danger. If you just say, I'm just a bystander, I'm just standing there. No, that's not going to... She was going in, she wanted to claim 100 Nazi scalps, and, she got hit, and, she's a victim. No, she was a combatant. But, of course, many in the media just focusing on, this woman was assaulted. Doesn't matter. For hours and hours, Antifa, which she was a part of, was throwing explosives and tear gas into a free speech rally, no less. No, they cherry-picked one thing. And I urge you, just don't take my word for it or the words of people, I've played the clips of. Go online, look at the videos. It's very clear. And what is very deceptive and would be very unclear is the coverage it's getting in the mainstream media. This is why the vast majority of Americans and other people in the West are losing faith in the mainstream media. You know what's not mainstream media? Community radio. Seriously, I could not have got a show on any other radio station except for Planet Audio. I love you guys. It truly is a station that broadcasts all voices of the community. Anyone can get a show. Check out the station's website. Check out the shows. You can also check out other community radio stations' sites and their shows, but ours are better. Just unhook from the mainstream media. Find people you trust, but also verify. Trust but verify. Also, if you get If you're able to, please donate blood. Save some lives. You can also donate platelets. As not only can you save some lives, you can make people with chronic conditions' lives better by doing so. And finally, exercise your free speech. Speak the truth. The mainstream media have their interests. You have your own. They're not the same. Look after your interests. And those are people you care about. Peace and love, people.